Welcome back to Live Now from Fox, and good morning to you if you're just now tuning in. I'm Gina Francine. We are 2 minutes shy from the top of the 6 o'clock hour here on the East Coast, and right now we want to transition to your top political headlines. Take a good look at your screen as we are following the very latest, learning that President Donald Trump revealed that a staffer with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's office included the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in a Signal group chat with senior Trump officials who were discussing plans for an upcoming strike on Houthi rebels in Yemen. The president added that Goldberg's inclusion in the group chat had, quote, no impact at all on the strike in Yemen. A lot to discuss and analyze this morning, so we want to bring into the conversation political analyst and historian Rich Rubino. Rich, good morning to you. Always a pleasure having you on the show for your candor. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me on again.
So for those unfamiliar with what's happened in recent days and even hours, can you catch us up? How did we get to this point?
Well, basically, Jeffrey Goldberg, who's a journalist for The Atlantic magazine, was inadvertently included in a memo, in a group chat involving United States high government officials discussing what was going to happen in the attack in Yemen. He did not reveal when this happened. He did not reveal what was going on, but he did reveal it afterward. And we saw essentially that there was a conversation, basically using emojis, congratulating each other between Vice President J.D. Vance, John Ratcliffe, for example, Mike Waltz, members of the administration, basically interacting. And this was using the Signal app. And there are many that believe that this could have potentially mean that the Russians or the Chinese or any sort of non-state actor could very possibly have intercepted the communication and found out about the attacks beforehand.
Rich, on your screen right now, this is the very latest that we have from President Donald Trump on the Signal leak. It says, quote, the main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. Break that down for us in perspective of politics and how it relates to media and all of that.
It's a great question. I think that whether the attack was successful or not obviously depends on kind of who you ask. I think the Trump administration certainly says that it was. The Yemenis official were saying that there were a lot more people were killed, potentially civilians were killed. But I think that the Trump administration, I think that this is just really giving quite a backlash against them. Even some members of the Republican Party, Roger Wicker, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, has suggested that there should be some sort of an investigation. It's bad politics. Donald Trump would rather be talking about his economic plan, for example. He would rather be talking about how he believes that the action in Yemen was successful. Instead, every question he's asked just about is basically Yemen related.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Trump administration. President Donald Trump's press secretary not wasting any time to respond, Caroline Levitt, courtesy of X. She says, quote, Jeffrey Goldberg is well known for his sensationalist spin. Here are the facts about his latest story. She says, quote, 1, no war plans were discussed. 2, no classified material was sent to the thread. And 3, the White House counsel's office has provided guidance on a number of different agenda items. A lot of people are feeling this is a concern as relates to national security. Rich, your thoughts?
Yes, and I think that this is very interesting because you might remember during the presidential campaign in 2016, Hillary Clinton was the Democratic nominee, was excoriated for using a private server for her emails. I guess they were very much classified emails. This is very similar. This is why Hillary Clinton, for example, did an eye roll in terms of an emoji on her own personal on her personal Twitter X page rather. But they're very much eerie similitudes between the two, I think, and a lot of Democrats are kind of saying, see, we told you so. This happens from other administrations, but it is true that you can go back to, for example, Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, and there's always this kind of issue of where do you get how you kind of hide information so that the Russians, the Chinese, or some sort of a non-state actor does not find out about it. What's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up Hillary Clinton, Rich, because a lot of people are making that comparison to when she used that home server as Secretary of State. Do you feel like it's a fair comparison, though?
Yeah, there are really eerie similitudes, I think, between the two. I think that Hillary Clinton, it was something that Donald Trump certainly used when he called her, for example, crooked Hillary Clinton during the 2016 presidential campaign. And Hillary recounted that other secretaries of states have done some stuff that is very similar. But from a public relations standpoint, it's a complete disaster for Hillary Clinton. She could not really recover from that. There were other factors too for why she lost. One thing being not visiting Wisconsin, for example, the critical swing state, but that was something she never really could recover from. And now it's kind of a tat for tat, I guess. And you're seeing a kind of a very similar argument that the Democrats are making in terms of saying that, if you went after Hillary Clinton for this, why are you doing this? So it's an absolute public relations nightmare, if you will, for the Trump administration.
Well, that's the perfect segue to this next quote. You talk about Democrats. If we look across the aisle in that response, Mark Warner saying, quote, when the stakes are this high, incompetence is not an option. He goes on to say Pete Hegseth should resign. Mike Waltz should resign. Rich, as we are having Democratic senators calling for these resignations, what do you think it's doing for that unification that President Donald Trump has called for since he has become president?
I think that it's really unified the Democratic Party. For the most conservative, the most liberal member, they really want to be there an investigation. They want there to be answers. So when you're talking about there, Mark Warner, he's currently the chairman of the United States Senate Committee on Intelligence. I think that from a practical standpoint, obviously Peter Hegseth probably is not going to resign. Mike Waltz, I guess theoretically, would probably only resign if Donald Trump were to ask him to do it. But Donald Trump obviously has given him just about his full-throated 110% endorsement so far. But this is something that's really unifying the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, I think, is basically going to use this as kind of a casus belli. And I think certainly in the 2026 midterm elections, there's something that they're going to make Republicans on the spot. I think Republicans, as they go to town hall meetings, are going to be asked about this. And the question is, are they going to defend the Trump administration, or are they going to do what, for example, someone like Don Bacon from Nebraska, who represents a district that last time went for Kamala Harris, did, which is essentially to excoriate the administration and say that it was incompetent.
Rich, on this Wednesday morning, a lot of the viewers wanting to know what happens next for those Americans that are concerned about national security. What can you share with them?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think that they probably will no longer use the Signal app. They probably would have to use more secure informations. Obviously, I think they were very reckless with it, and it certainly was an embarrassment for the Trump administration. It's something that they probably will certainly get over, but it's something that I think Democrats will continue to harangue them about. For basically being reckless and obviously this is not what the Trump administration wants to be in the headlines. They would much rather be in the headlines. Their economic plan, what they believe is a successful foreign policy, and certainly not this.
Political analyst and historian Rich Rubino, always a thorough and detailed breakdown. Thank you so much for your dialogue and expertise on this topic. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.